Middle-earth is a land of mysteries, where the past lingers like whispers on the wind, and even the wise do not know all things. Yet, among the many figures who have walked its roads, there was one who knew too much about a thing not meant to be understood. This is the story of that one soul, burdened with knowledge of the One Ring beyond what should have been possible, and the consequences that followed. Long before Frodo Baggins bore the weight of the ring, and before even Bilbo first laid eyes on its golden surface, the history of this accursed artifact was known in fragments, scattered across the minds of elves, wizards, and lawmasters. But there was one individual who uncovered more than mere fragments. This was not one of the wise, not an elf lord of Rivendell, nor even a being of great power. Rather, it was a creature twisted by fate, one who came to possess knowledge deeper than he should have. His name was Smeagol, or as he came to be known, Gollum. The story of Gollum begins in the year 2463 of the Third Age, when he found the ring in the depths of the Anduin River. From that moment, his fate was sealed. Unlike Isildur, who perished before he could unlock the ring's true depths, or Sauron, whose own power blinded him to its vulnerabilities, Gollum lived with it for nearly 500 years, bound to it in a way that no other mortal being ever had. He was neither a simple bearer like Bilbo, nor a master like Sauron. He was something in between. And in that prolonged, unnatural existence, he came to know the ring in ways that no other creature of Middle-earth ever would. For centuries, he hoarded it, whispered to it, listened to it, and the ring, in turn, whispered back. We know from Gandalf's accounts that it extended his life far beyond its natural course, twisting his body and mind. But what is often overlooked is how the ring used Gollum as a vessel of knowledge. It was not Gollum only that was bound to the ring, Gandalf said, but the ring also to him. What did it teach him in those long, dark years? What secrets did he learn that even the wise did not comprehend? Many assume Gollum was merely a wretched creature, driven by hunger and obsession. But there are moments, subtle ones, where he reveals an understanding that goes beyond mere greed. He knew, for instance, that the ring had a will of its own, that it could abandon a master if it chose. "It came to me, my birthday present, my precious," he once cried. But later, in a rare moment of clarity, he admitted, "It tricks us. It came to us, yes, but it chose to leave us." Herein lies the true horror of Gollum's knowledge. He did not simply know of the ring. He understood it. He grasped, however dimly, that it was not merely an object of power, but a thing alive. A thing that could think, deceive, and betray. It was an awareness that neither Bilbo nor Frodo fully possessed, and even Sauron in his arrogance underestimated. Gollum, in his madness, spoke the truth that others ignored. The ring did not belong to anyone, not even to Sauron. It belonged only to itself. But what else did he know? What dreadful insights did he glean in the long, lightless caverns beneath the misty mountains? That is the question we must explore. There are hints, scattered throughout the texts, that Gollum knew far more than what was ever spoken aloud. Consider his strange, almost supernatural ability to track the ring. When he finally lost it to Bilbo in the year 2941 of the Third Age, he did not simply give up. He felt its absence like a missing limb, as though a part of himself had been severed. For decades he wandered, drawn inexorably toward the ring's new bearer. But how? What force guided him across vast lands, through perilous places, until he emerged from his darkened lair and began his hunt anew? Some may argue it was mere instinct, the gnawing obsession of an addict chasing his next taste of power. But instinct alone does not explain his unerring path. Gandalf himself noted that Gollum's movements were unnatural, as though something unseen guided him. "I have seen him myself, tracking Frodo with a terrible light in his eyes," he warned. How did he know where to go? How did he find his way unaided to the very gates of Mordor? It is possible that, in his long communion with the ring, Gollum learned something that no other mortal ever did. the whispers of the ring itself, a voice that called to him through the void. The wise feared that the One Ring could exert influence even over great minds, bending them to its will in subtle ways. Yet Gollum was no great lord, no powerful sorcerer, no ruler of men. He was a mere creature, alone and forsaken, and yet he resisted giving the ring to Sauron's servants, even under torture. This suggests something deeper. The ring did not merely use him. It relied on him. It allowed him knowledge that others could not access, perhaps because he was no true threat to its designs. It did not fear him, and so it spoke to him freely. That, in turn, may have granted him an insight even Sauron lacked, a sense of the ring's mind, its desires, and its ability to betray its... Even in his dealings with Frodo, Gollum's understanding ran deeper than that of others. He knew that no one could truly possess the ring, not Frodo, not Bilbo, not even Sauron himself. The Dark Lord had poured his own essence into it, believing he could control it absolutely, yet the ring had a will of its own. Gollum had long since grasped this fundamental truth, even if he could not put it into words. "Master mustn't go near the fiery mountain," he pleaded in desperation. He did not merely fear the destruction of his precious. He knew, deep down, that the ring itself feared it too. This knowledge made Gollum one of the most dangerous beings in Middle-earth, not because of his strength, but because of his unique relationship with the ring. He had carried it, lived with it, whispered to it for centuries, and in return it had revealed things to him that no lawkeeper, no elf lord, no wizard had ever fully grasped. The wise studied the ring as an artifact of great power, but Gollum, wretched, broken, and enslaved, knew it as a living thing. And perhaps, in the end, it was that knowledge that undid him. In the final days of the Third Age, as Frodo and Sam neared the heart of Mordor, Gollum's actions became more erratic, more desperate. Some see his betrayal at Cirith Ungol as nothing more than his insatiable greed, a final act of treachery to reclaim his lost treasure. But what if there was more to it? What if his actions were not solely driven by desire, but by fear? Fear of what he knew the ring was capable of. Gollum's knowledge of the ring's nature, gained over centuries of intimate possession, led him to understand what Frodo himself only began to realize, that there was no true escape from its power. Frodo believed he could carry the burden and resist, but Gollum had already lived that torment. He had been Frodo once, long ago, before his corruption. He knew, perhaps better than anyone, that no one could hold the ring indefinitely without being consumed by it. Even as he feigned submission, pleading nice master and poor Smeagol, there was a deeper recognition behind his words. He saw in Frodo a reflection of himself, and he understood that Frodo's path could only end in one of two ways: with him falling under the ring's control, or with his death. This is why Gollum's betrayal in Shelob's lair takes on a darker, more tragic significance. It was not just an attempt to reclaim the ring. It may have been an act of preemptive desperation. He had to separate Frodo from the ring before it fully enslaved him. He had to stop the inevitable before it was too late. "He will take it to Sauron, yes he will, foolish hobbits," he muttered to himself, as though trying to justify what he was about to do. But despite all his cunning, despite all his knowledge, Gollum failed. And with that failure he was left with one last terrible truth. He would never again possess the ring. It had abandoned him, as it had abandoned Isildur, as it would abandon Frodo in the end. No matter what he did, it was slipping further from his grasp. And yet, fate, or the will of the ring, was not done with him. When they finally reached Mount Doom, when Frodo at last stood at the very brink, the moment came that Gollum had feared all along. Frodo, who had resisted for so long, who had borne the burden across the wastelands of Mordor, finally succumbed. "I do not choose to do what I came to do," he declared. "The ring is mine." It was the confirmation of everything Gollum had known. There was no resisting the ring. Even Frodo, strong of heart, guided by wisdom and friendship, had fallen. Perhaps in that instant, Gollum saw the full weight of his knowledge come to pass. He had spent his life trying to reclaim the ring, believing it to be his salvation, his precious gift. But in that final moment, he witnessed the truth. There was no salvation in the ring, only enslavement. And so, whether by fate or by the will of something greater, he acted, not by conscious choice, not by heroism, but by the same force that had guided his entire miserable existence. He fought, he struggled, and in the end he seized the ring once more. But it was not victory, it was doom. His own doom and the doom of the ring itself. As he fell, clutching the treasure he had spent centuries pursuing, did he realize what had happened? Did he see that in the end he had played the role that no one else could? That all his suffering, all his knowledge, had led him to this one moment, to be the instrument of the ring's destruction? The answer, like so many things about Gollum, remained shrouded in shadow. But as the fires of Mount Doom consumed him, one thing became clear. Of all those who had ever held the ring, of all those who had studied it, desired it, or sought to wield its power, none had ever understood it quite like Gollum. And it was that knowledge that, in the end, destroyed both him and the thing he had so desperately loved. With Gollum's fall, the ring was unmade, and the Dark Lord's power collapsed in ruin. But though Sauron's dominion was shattered, the echoes of the One Ring's influence remained. The knowledge Gollum had carried, the terrible intimate awareness of the ring's nature, perished with him in the fires of Mount Doom. None were left who could speak of the truths he had uncovered, the whispers he had heard in the dark, the silent battles fought in his fractured mind. And yet, his story did not vanish entirely. Gandalf, who had long understood the deeper forces at work in Middle-earth, recognized Gollum's role as something more than mere accident. Even Gollum may have something yet to do, he had once prophesied. It was a rare glimpse into the unseen currents of fate, suggesting that Gollum's existence, miserable though it was, had always been entwined with the fate of the ring itself. But what if Gollum had survived? What if, by some cruel twist, he had lived beyond that final moment? The thought is chilling, for there is no telling what would have become of him. Would he have found freedom at last, released from the torment of his obsession? Or would he have been left as a hollow shell, forever searching for something that no longer existed? The destruction of the ring meant the end of its power, but it also meant the end of the only thing that had given Gollum purpose. Perhaps it is fitting that he perished with it, for he was in many ways its final guardian. He had kept it hidden from the world for centuries, shielding it even from the grasp of its own maker, and in the end it was his hands, not those of a hero, that sealed its doom. The tale of the ring began with Sauron's forging of it in the Second Age, but it ended not with kings, warriors, or wizards, but with a creature no one had foreseen playing the final role. So, what do we make of Gollum? Was he merely a wretched victim of the ring's power, or was he something more? An unwilling keeper of secrets, the only being who ever truly understood what the One Ring was? The wise feared and sought to destroy it, the Dark Lord sought to reclaim it, but Gollum alone lived in its shadow without ambition or design. He did not wish to rule, nor to forge great armies, he only wished to possess, to covet, to love. And in that love, twisted and cruel as it was, he learned what others did not, that the ring was never truly owned, only borrowed. His story is one of tragedy, but also of fate. Without him, the ring would never have been destroyed. Without his knowledge, his cunning, and his suffering, the course of history would have been far darker. In the end, he was the one who knew too much. Not through wisdom or learning, but through the slow, agonizing years of possession. And so, as Middle-earth moved on, as the Age of Men dawned and the old evils faded into legend, Gollum's name was scarcely remembered. He was not a hero, he was not a villain, he was something far more haunting. A figure who glimpsed the truth of the One Ring and was consumed by it. And in his fall, he took that truth with him, into the fires of Mount Doom, where it was lost forever. And so ends our journey into the mind of the one who knew too much. But what do you think? Was Gollum truly the only one to understand the ring's nature? Or did others, perhaps even Frodo, come close to the same revelation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and, as always, may the stars shine upon your path.